3 weeks had passed since Kalos 4. 3 weeks since Hana had earned the name Death Whisper. 3 weeks since everything changed. The academy felt different now. When Hana walked through the corridors, conversation stopped. Cadets from other species moved aside, giving her space. Some looked at her with respect. Others with fear. None of them looked at her like she was weak anymore. The change bothered her more than the old mockery had. She sat in the academy's observation deck, staring out at the stars. This was her quiet place where she could think without the weight of other people's stares. But even here, she wasn't truly alone. "You're avoiding people," Deho said, sliding into the seat beside her. The communications officer had become something like a friend over the past weeks. One of the few people who still talked to her like she was just Hana, not Death Whisper. "People are avoiding me," Hana corrected. "Same thing." Deho pulled out a datapad. "You've been requested for 7 different interviews. Galactic News Services want the story of the human who killed an Apex render. 3 military journals want to analyze your tactics, and there's a standing request from the Council's military committee to observe your training." Hana closed her eyes. "I just want to be a cadet." "You're not just a cadet anymore," Deho said gently. "You're Death Whisper. You're the human who proved that our species belongs among warriors. Whether you want that responsibility or not, you have it." "I didn't ask for it. No one asks for greatness. It just happens." Hana turned to look at him. "Is that what this is? Greatness? Because it feels more like being put in a box. Before Kalos 4, I was the weak human. Now I'm Death Whisper the killer. Different box, same problem. No one sees me. They see what they want to see." Deho was quiet for a moment. "What do you want them to see?" "I don't know anymore." The observation deck door opened and Kira entered. The Rikathi spotted them and approached cautiously. "Hana, they're starting advanced combat training in 10 minutes. You coming?" Hana nodded and stood. Deho caught her arm briefly. "Just remember, you get to choose who you become. Not them. You." Advanced combat training was taught by Instructor Vekthar himself. The class size was small, only the top cadets from each species. Hana found herself surrounded by beings who had once dismissed her, and now treated her like dangerous glass, valuable but likely to cut them if handled wrong. Vekthar entered the training hall, his heavy footsteps echoing. He surveyed the assembled cadets, his gaze lingering on Hana. "Today we discuss real combat scenarios. Not training exercises. Real situations where the decisions you make determine who lives and who dies." He activated a holographic display. It showed a space station under attack. "This is Talos 9, a civilian station with 50,000 inhabitants. It has been seized by a terrorist group calling themselves Burning Eclipse. They have 50 hostages in the central hub. What do you do?" The discussion that followed was heated. The Valorian cadets argued for direct assault. The Nethrim proposed complex tactical maneuvers. The Rikathi suggested rapid insertion and extraction. Vekthar listened to all of them, then turned to Hana. "Cadet Kim, you've been quiet. What's your assessment?" Hana studied the hologram. She saw what the others missed. The station's layout, the bottlenecks, the ways that overwhelming force would get hostages killed. "Infiltration," she said. "One person moving through maintenance systems. Take out the terrorists one at a time quietly, before they know anyone is there. One person against 12 armed terrorists?" A Valorian cadet scoffed. "That's suicide." "No," Hana said calmly. "It's hunting. You don't charge into a hunt. You stalk, you wait, you take them when they're isolated and vulnerable." Vekthar's expression was unreadable. "And who would you send on this suicide mission, Cadet Kim?" Hana met his eyes. "Someone who knows how to hunt." The training session ended, but Vekthar asked Hana to stay behind. When the others had left, he spoke. "Burning Eclipse is real. They seized Talos 9 3 days ago. 53 hostages, 12 terrorists. The Galactic Council is assembling a response team." Hana's stomach dropped. "You were testing our responses to a real situation?" "Yes, and your assessment was correct. Overwhelming force will get hostages killed. The terrorists are fanatics. They'll detonate explosives rather than surrender." Vekthar paused. "The response team has requested Death Whisper. I'm just a cadet. You killed an Apex render. You hunt like nothing I've ever seen. The team believes you can infiltrate the station and neutralize the terrorists before they harm the hostages." Vekthar's voice softened slightly. I told them you're too young, too inexperienced for a mission this dangerous. But the truth is, you might be the only one who can do this. The question is whether you want to. Hana sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking now, though they'd been steady when she killed the render. What if I fail? What if people die because I'm not good enough? People will die if you don't try, Vekthar said. The alternative is a full assault that will definitely get hostages killed. You're not being asked to be perfect. You're being asked to give them a chance. That night, Hana couldn't sleep. She lay in her quarters, staring at the ceiling, thinking about 53 lives depending on her. Thinking about what it meant to be Death Whisper. Her communication device chimed. A message from Diho. Heard about the mission. You don't have to do this. No one would blame you for saying no. She typed back. Would you say no? His response came quickly. I'm not you. I'm not Death Whisper. I couldn't do what you do. Neither can I, Hana wrote. I just do what I have to do. There was a long pause before Diho replied. That's what makes you Death Whisper. Not the killing. The fact that you do what has to be done, even when it terrifies you. That's courage. Hana stared at the message for a long time. Then she made her decision. The next morning, she found Instructor Vekthar in the training hall. I'll do it, she said. I'll go to Talos 9. Vekthar studied her face. Are you certain? No, Hana admitted. But I'm the best chance those hostages have. And that means I have to try. The briefing happened fast. Hana met with the response team. Experienced soldiers from multiple species, all of them looking at her with a mixture of hope and skepticism. The plan was simple. They would create a distraction while Hana infiltrated through the maintenance systems. Once you're inside, you're on your own, the team commander explained. Communication will be limited. You'll have to make decisions in real time. Trust your instincts. Kira and Rockvan found her before she left. We should come with you, Rockvan said. Hana shook her head. This is a one-person job. But thank you. For everything. Kira hugged her, something Rakathi rarely did with other species. Come back, Death Whisper. Just Hana, she said quietly. I'm just Hana. The transport to Talos 9 took 6 hours. Hana spent the time studying the station's layout, memorizing every corridor, every maintenance shaft, every possible route. She visualized the mission over and over, preparing for every scenario she could imagine. But she also spent time thinking about who she was. About the girl who had arrived at the academy weeks ago expecting to fail, about the person she'd become, about whether killing efficiently made her a monster or a protector. Diho sent one final message before she entered the communication blackout zone. Remember, you choose who you become. Not them. You. Hana read the message 3 times. Then she deleted it and prepared for the mission. The approach to Talos 9 was tense. The station hung in space like a wounded animal, its lights flickering where the terrorist had damaged systems. 53 people inside waiting to be saved or killed. Hana suited up in lightweight armor designed for stealth, not protection. She carried minimal weapons, a small blade, a tranquilizer gun, and her own skills. The response team would draw the terrorists' attention to the main docking bay. That would give her maybe 30 minutes to infiltrate and start her hunt. As the transport maneuvered into position, the team commander spoke one last time. Good luck. Death Whisper. Hana checked her equipment one final time. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. She had work to do. It's just Hana, she said, mostly to herself. Then she stepped into the airlock, ready to do what humans did best, survive, adapt, and protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The hunt was about to begin. Behind her, in the transport, the soldiers watched her go. One of them muttered, 53 hostages, 12 armed terrorists, 1 human cadet. Either were geniuses or were insane. Another soldier who had studied the Kalos 4 footage replied, Have you seen what she did to that Apex render? I'd bet on the human. On Talos 9, the terrorists had no idea that death had just entered their station. They had no idea that the quiet human girl making her way through the maintenance shafts was the most dangerous thing they would ever encounter. They had no idea about Death Whisper, but they would learn. In the hours to come, they would learn what it meant to be hunted by a human. They would learn about patience and precision and the inexorable approach of something that refused to stop. They would learn about fear, and 53 hostages would learn about hope. They didn't just hunt, they became the thing that prey feared. Day 6 began with an emergency broadcast that made every cadet on Kalos 4 stop what they were doing. All teams, "This is command." Instructor Vekthar's voice crackled through their communication devices. "We have detected an apex render moving through Sector 7. All teams in that sector are ordered to evacuate immediately to extraction points. This is not a drill. The apex render has killed trained soldiers. Do not engage." Hana checked her datapad. Sector 7. They were in Sector 7. Kira's ears flattened against her head, a sign of fear in her species. "Apex render. I've read about them. 4 meters tall armored hide that deflects energy weapons, regenerative healing. They're classified as extreme threat level." Rockvan stood up, gathering their equipment. "We evacuate." "Where's the nearest extraction point?" Hana studied the map on her datapad. The nearest extraction point was 6 kilometers north. They could make it in 2 hours if they moved fast. But something made her pause. She zoomed in on the topographical data, tracing the render's likely path based on its last known position. "We can't reach the extraction point," she said quietly. "What do you mean?" Rockvan demanded. Hana showed them the map. "The render is here, moving northeast." "We're here. The extraction point is here. The render's path will intersect ours before we can get there. If we run, we'll meet it in open ground." Kira's voice was tight with fear. "Then what do we do?" Hana stared at the map, her mind racing. Every instinct told her to run, but her training, both from the academy and from understanding human survival strategies, told her something different. "We can't outrun it. We can't hide from it. It will find us." "Then we fight?" Rockvan asked, but his voice lacked confidence. An apex render was beyond anything they were trained to handle. "No," Hana said slowly. "We kill it." Both of her teammates stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "Kill it?" Kira repeated. "Hana, this isn't a Shadestalker. This creature has killed soldiers with advanced weapons and armor. We're just cadets with basic equipment." "Which is why we can't fight it the way soldiers would," Hana said. She was thinking fast now, pulling together everything she'd learned about the jungle, about predator behavior, about human hunting strategies. "We need to do what humans do best. We watch it. We learn its patterns. We use the environment. And we set a trap." "That's insane," Kira said. "Probably," Hana agreed. "But it's our only chance. If we run, it catches us in the open. If we hide, it finds us eventually. Our only option is to control the encounter. Choose the battlefield. Choose the terms." Rockvan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I trust you, Hana. What do we do?" The first thing Hana did was scout. She left Kira and Rockvan at their camp with strict instructions not to move. Then she went hunting for the apex render. Not to fight it, just to observe. She found it an hour later. The apex render was everything the report said and worse. It stood 4 meters tall on 2 powerful legs. Its hide was covered in overlapping armor plates that looked like they could deflect anything. Its head was massive, with jaws that could bite through steel. Its arms ended in claws the length of sword blades, but Hana didn't focus on what made it dangerous. She focused on patterns. She watched the render for 2 hours, staying downwind using the jungle's natural cover. She watched how it moved through the terrain. She noticed it marked its territory every 40 minutes, scratching trees with its claws. She noticed it preferred high ground, always returning to elevated positions to survey its domain. She noticed it favored its left side when it turned, a slight asymmetry in its movement that suggested an old injury. Most importantly, she noticed it was intelligent. This wasn't a mindless beast. It was a territorial predator that understood its environment, that planned its movements, that thought. That meant it could be fooled. Hana returned to camp as the sun began to set. She gathered Kira and Rockvan and explained her plan. It was risky. It relied on perfect timing, and the render behaving exactly as she predicted. If she was wrong about any part of it, they would die. "This is crazy," Kira said when Hana finished explaining. "Yes," Hana agreed. "But it might work," Rockvan added thoughtfully. He looked at Hana with something approaching awe. "How did you think of this?" "Humans have been killing things bigger and stronger than us for millions of years," Hana said simply. "We learned to use tools, terrain, and patience. This is what my species does." They spent the next 2 hours preparing. Hana chose the battlefield carefully, a ravine with unstable ground on one side and dense vegetation on the other. She identified every element they would need. The toxic plants whose sap could cause paralysis, The weak spots in the ground that would give way under sufficient weight. The trees whose branches were strong enough to support a trap. Kira and Rockvan followed her instructions exactly. They trusted her now, completely and without question. As darkness fell, they were ready. The apex render came as Hana predicted, drawn by the territorial markers Rockvan had deliberately disturbed. It entered the ravine slowly, cautiously, sensing that something was wrong. Hana watched from concealment, her heart pounding but her hands steady. Timing was everything. The render moved into position exactly where she needed it. Kira and Rockvan created the first distraction, sounds from the right side of the ravine. The render's head snapped toward the noise and it moved to investigate. Step 1 complete. The render was now standing on the weakened ground. Hana gave the signal. Rockvan, using all his strength, pushed a massive boulder from the high ground above. The boulder crashed down, not hitting the render but landing right beside it. The impact, combined with the render's own weight, caused the weakened ground to give way. The render fell into the pit Hana had identified, a natural depression hidden under vegetation. The fall wasn't enough to kill it, but the bottom of the pit was lined with the toxic plants they'd prepared. The creature roared as it landed on the poisonous spikes. Step 2 complete. The render was injured and disoriented, but apex renders could regenerate. The poison would slow it down but not stop it. Hana had counted on this. The creature began to climb out of the pit, its powerful claws finding purchase on the ravine walls. It was angry now, more dangerous than before. This was the critical moment. Kira ran across the render's line of sight, deliberately drawing its attention. The creature roared and surged upward, pulling itself out of the pit with terrifying speed. Its regeneration was already working, healing the poison damage. But the effort and the poison had exhausted it just enough. Just for a few seconds, and a few seconds was all Hana needed. She dropped from the tree branch directly above, falling through the air with a sharpened spear they'd crafted from the jungle's hardest wood. The render's eyes tracked upward, seeing her, but its poison-slowed reflexes couldn't react in time. Hana drove the spear through the render's eye, angling it downward and back straight into the brainstem. The apex render shuddered once. Its massive body swayed, then it collapsed. Total preparation time 2 hours. Execution time 12 seconds. Hana landed in a crouch beside the dead creature, breathing hard. Kira and Rockvan emerged from cover, staring at the fallen apex render in shock. "It's dead," Kira whispered. "You actually killed it." In orbit, alarms were going off in the command center. The apex render's life signs had flatlined. Instructors scrambled to pull up the footage from Team 7's emergency beacons. They watched in complete silence as Hana scouted the creature. As she planned the trap, as she executed the kill with surgical precision, Instructor Vekthar stood without speaking for a full minute after the footage ended. Finally, he turned to the other instructors. "I was wrong," he said, his voice carrying through the silent command center. "Humans aren't weak. They're the most terrifying hunters in the galaxy." Salis the Nethrim was reviewing the tactical data. She studied it for 2 hours, identified its patterns, used the environment perfectly. The trap was brilliant, but the kill itself... Salis replayed the final 12 seconds. "She doesn't fight like us. She fights like an extinction event." "What do you mean?" another instructor asked. "When our species fight, we rely on our natural advantages. Strength, speed, tactical processing. The human has none of those advantages, so she uses something else. She uses understanding, patience, precision. She turns the environment itself into a weapon." Salis looked at the frozen image of Hana standing over the dead render. On Earth, humans didn't just survive. They became the apex predator of their entire planet, not through strength, but through intelligence and persistence. We're seeing that evolution in action. The name Death Whisper spread through every communication channel. By the time Team 7 was extracted the next morning, every cadet, every instructor, every staff member on Kronos 7 knew the story. The human who killed an apex render. The human who hunted like death itself. When the extraction shuttle arrived, Hana climbed aboard with Kira and Rockvan. She was exhausted, covered in mud and scratches, but unhurt. As the shuttle lifted away from Kalos 4, she looked down at the jungle one last time. "How are you not shaking?" Kira asked quietly. "You just killed something that kills trained soldiers." Hana looked at her hands. They were steady. She thought about the question. about fear and adrenaline and the human response to danger. "Because this is what humans do," she said final. News of the Shadestalker kill spread through the survival trial like wildfire. Every team had emergency beacons that transmitted basic data back to the orbital station. When other cadets checked their communication devices, they saw the notification. Team 7, 1 Shadestalker neutralized, 4 seconds. 0 casualties. In the command center, instructors replayed the footage for the 3rd time. Some watched with academic interest. Others watched with something closer to concern. "The human killed it like it was nothing," one instructor muttered. "Not nothing," Salis the Nethram corrected. "She made it look easy because she did everything correctly. Perfect timing. Perfect placement. No wasted movement." Instructor Vekthar said nothing. He simply watched the footage again, his expression unreadable. Down in the jungle, Hana's team moved through day 3 with new confidence. Rockvan no longer treated Hana like dead weight. He actually asked her opinion when they chose their path. Kira walked beside her instead of ahead, asking questions about how humans hunted on Earth. "We weren't built for hunting," Hana explained as they crossed a stream. "We weren't the fastest or the strongest, but we could run for hours. We could track prey across vast distances. We could outlast almost anything." "Persistence," Kira said, remembering the word Hana had used before. "Yes, and observation. My people survived by understanding patterns, by learning how other creatures behaved. We adapted," Rockvan grunted. "All species adapt. Not like humans," Kira said thoughtfully. "Most species adapt over generations through evolution. Humans adapt within their own lifetime. They learn." They encountered their second predator that afternoon, a pack hunter called a razor spine. These creatures traveled in groups of 4 or 5, coordinating their attacks with frightening intelligence. They had sharp quills along their backs that they could launch like projectiles. The pack found Team 7 near a clearing, 5 razor spines circling, looking for weaknesses. Rockvan prepared to fight. Kira dropped into a defensive stance, but Hana held up her hand. "Wait," she said. "Watch them. Watch them," Rockvan growled. "They're going to attack." "Yes, but not yet. Watch their pattern." Hana had been observing the razor spines since they appeared. She noticed how the pack leader, slightly larger than the others, positioned itself. She noticed how the others deferred to it, waiting for its signal. She noticed the way they breathed, the way their muscles tensed before launching their quills. Most importantly, she noticed they were territorial, not hungry. They weren't hunting for food. They wanted Team 7 to leave their territory. "Walk backward slowly," Hana said. "Don't run. Don't challenge them. Just move out of their space." "We should fight," Rockvan insisted. "We should survive," Hana countered. "Fighting wastes energy and risks injury. We don't need to kill them. We need to leave their territory." Kyra made the decision. "We follow Hana's plan." They backed away slowly, maintaining eye contact but not challenging the pack. The razor spines watched them carefully. 10 seconds passed. Then the pack leader made a huffing sound and the creatures retreated into the jungle. No fight. No injuries. No wasted energy. Rockvan stared at Hana. "You knew they would let us go." "I observed their behavior," Hana said. "They were defending territory, not hunting. There's a difference." That night they made camp near a waterfall. The sound of rushing water would mask their presence from predators. As they ate their rations, Kira asked the question that had been bothering her all day. "Hana, when you killed the Shadestalker, were you afraid?" Hana considered the question. "Yes," she admitted. "But fear is just information. It tells you there's danger. It doesn't tell you what to do about it. Training and observation tell you what to do." "You didn't hesitate," Kira pressed. "Hesitation gets you killed. Once you commit to action, you act. Humans learned that over millions of years of evolution. The ones who hesitated became prey." Rockvan had been quiet, but now he spoke. "On my world, we have stories of great warriors. They speak of honor in combat, of facing enemies with strength and courage." He paused, his stone-like features thoughtful. "But there is no honor in being dead. You fight to win, not to prove something." "Exactly," Hana said. Somewhere else in the jungle, another team wasn't as fortunate. Team 3 encountered a territorial predator and chose to fight rather than retreat. 2 cadets died. The third was extracted with severe injuries. The emergency notifications went out and the survival trial's casualty count increased. Team 7 survived Day 4 without incident. Hana taught her teammates to read the jungle, to understand the patterns of predator behavior, to know when to fight and when to avoid conflict. It was knowledge humans had accumulated over countless generations of survival. On Day 5, they encountered another team. Team 11 was led by Vorn, a Valorian who had mocked Hana on her first day at the academy. His team looked exhausted, their equipment damaged from multiple predator encounters. When Vorn saw Hana's team approaching, his expression twisted with anger. "The human," he spat. "I heard about your Shadestalker kill. Lucky strike." "It wasn't luck," Kira said, stepping forward. Vorn ignored her, focusing on Hana. "You're still the weakest cadet here. You hide behind your team and they get the credit for your survival." Hana met his eyes calmly. "If you say so." Her lack of reaction seemed to anger Vorn more. "We should test that. Combat trial. You and me. Show everyone whether the human is truly a warrior or just a coward who got lucky." Rockvan moved to intervene, but Hana touched his arm. "It's okay," she said quietly. Then louder to Vorn, "I decline. We're here to survive, not to prove something to you." "Coward," Vorn sneered. "Survivor," Hana corrected. Vorn's team looked uncomfortable. One of them, a Nethrim, spoke up. "Vorn, we should keep moving. We're low on supplies," but Vorn wasn't finished. "Tonight," he said to Hana, "when you're sleeping, when you think you're safe, remember that strength matters. Remember that the weak don't survive." He led his team away into the jungle. Kira watched them go, her muscles tense. "That was a threat." "Yes," Hana agreed. "What do we do?" Rockvan asked. Hana was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she said, "We prepare. They'll come tonight. They'll try to ambush us, steal our supplies, maybe hurt us to prove some point about strength." "How do you know?" Kira asked. "Because Vorn is predictable. He thinks strength is everything. He doesn't understand that strength is only useful if you can apply it." Hana looked at her teammates. "Tonight we show him what happens when you underestimate humans." They made camp in an obvious location. Too obvious. Then Hana set to work. She studied the surrounding jungle, identifying every possible approach. She set up subtle markers using bioluminescent plants, creating a perimeter that would alert her to movement. She prepared several surprises using the jungle's natural resources. "You're setting traps," Rockvan observed. "Humans are good at traps," Hana said. When night fell, they pretended to sleep. Hana lay still, eyes closed, breathing steady. But she was listening, waiting. Vorn's team came 2 hours after midnight. They moved quietly, thinking they were being stealthy. But they disturbed Hana's markers. She heard the faint rustle of bioluminescent leaves shifting. She opened her eyes and slipped out of her bedding without a sound. What happened next would be talked about for years at the academy. Hana didn't confront Vorn's team directly. Instead, she used the jungle itself. She used misdirection, creating sounds in one direction while moving in another. She used the natural terrain to separate the 3 members of Vorn's team from each other. She used their own confidence against them, letting them think they were the hunters when they had become the prey. Vorn found himself alone in the dark jungle, separated from his team. He heard movement all around him but couldn't pinpoint where Hana was. Every shadow seemed to hide her. Every sound could be her approach. "Human!" he roared. "Face me!" Hana's voice came from somewhere behind him. "Why? So you can use your strength advantage? That's not how humans fight." He spun around. "Nothing. Humans hunt differently." Her voice continued, now from a different direction. "We tire our prey. We confuse them. We wait for the perfect moment." Vorn charged toward the sound but found only empty jungle. His frustration grew into genuine fear. He was being hunted. The weakest cadet in the academy was hunting him like an animal. When dawn came, Vorn and his 2 teammates woke up tied together with their own equipment straps, stripped of their supplies, completely unharmed but thoroughly humiliated. Hana sat nearby, calmly eating a ration bar. "Combat isn't about strength," she said quietly. "It's about winning. You wanted to prove something about weakness and strength. I proved that those concepts don't mean what you think they mean." She cut them loose and walked away, leaving their supplies in a pile. Rockvan and Kira followed her, both struggling to hide their amazement. The emergency beacons had recorded everything. In orbit, the instructors watched the footage in complete silence. They watched Hana move through the jungle like a ghost, systematically neutralizing 3 larger, stronger opponents without throwing a single punch. Sally spoke first. She fights like death itself, quiet, inevitable, without mercy. Vecthar nodded slowly. On Earth there were old stories. Stories of how humans hunted. They called it persistence hunting, but there was another aspect to it. He pulled up ancient Earth texts. They called themselves persistence predators. The dropship shuddered as it entered Kalos 4's atmosphere. Hana gripped her harness, watching through the viewport as green jungle rushed up to meet them. The moon's surface was covered in dense vegetation that glowed with bioluminescent light even during the day, beautiful and deadly. Beside her sat Kira, the Rikathi who had spoken to her before the trial. On her other side was Rokvan, a Gorthian who looked like he was carved from solid rock. He hadn't spoken a single word to Hana since they were assigned as a team. He didn't need to. His expression said everything. He thought she was dead weight. 60 seconds to drop zone, the pilot announced. Instructor Vecthar's voice came through their communication devices. Teams will be dropped at different locations across the jungle. Your objective is simple: survive for 7 days. There is a secondary objective: neutralize any threats you encounter. Prove you are warriors. The creatures on Kalos 4 have killed cadets before. Do not underestimate them. The dropship's bay doors opened and wind screamed into the cabin. Hana's stomach lurched. Go, the pilot shouted. Kira jumped first, her lean body dropping through the air like a spear. Rokvan went next, so heavy that the ship tilted slightly when he left. Hana took a breath and jumped. The fall lasted forever and no time at all. Her training kicked in. She spread her arms and legs, controlling her descent as best she could. The emergency chute deployed automatically at 50 meters, jerking her hard. She landed in soft mud near a stream, rolled and came up gasping. Kira and Rokvan were already waiting. The Rikathi barely looked winded. Rokvan was checking his equipment, ignoring Hana completely. We should move away from the drop zone, Kira said. Predators will investigate the noise. They pushed into the jungle. The vegetation was thick and the air smelled strange, sweet and rotting at the same time. Everything glowed faintly. The trees had bark that pulsed with blue light. The flowers released spores that drifted like tiny stars. It was like walking through a dream, except Hana knew that things in dreams here would try to kill them. Rokvan led the way, using his massive strength to push through the undergrowth. Kira moved alongside him, her eyes constantly scanning. Hana brought up the rear, trying to keep up with their much longer strides. The first day passed without incident. They found a defensible position near a rock formation and made camp. Rokvan finally spoke. The human will take first watch. I have a name, Hana said quietly. It's Hana. I don't care, Rokvan replied. You're the weakest. You watch while we rest. Kira looked uncomfortable but didn't argue. They both settled down to sleep, leaving Hana alone in the glowing darkness. She didn't mind. It gave her time to observe. She watched how the jungle moved, how the bioluminescent patterns shifted. She listened to the sounds, the calls of unseen creatures, the rustle of leaves, the distant splash of water. Everything had a rhythm. Everything had a pattern. The second day began with more walking. They were searching for water sources and mapping their territory. Hana's legs ached from the constant movement, but she didn't complain. She knew complaining would only confirm what Rokvan already thought about her. It was late afternoon when they encountered the Shade Stalker. Hana saw it first, or rather, she noticed the absence of sound. The jungle had gone quiet. She stopped walking. Wait, she said. Rokvan turned. What? Something's wrong, Hana said. Listen. Kira tilted her head, her enhanced hearing picking up what Hana had noticed. She's right. The jungle is silent. The Shade Stalker dropped from the trees. It was massive, 6 limbs, each ending in curved claws. Its body was covered in overlapping plates that shifted colors to match the jungle. Its head had compound eyes and a mouth full of teeth designed for tearing. This was an apex predator, the kind that had killed Academy cadets before. Rokvan roared and charged immediately. His strategy was simple: use his strength to overwhelm the threat. He swung his fist at the creature's head. The Shade Stalker moved faster. It dodged and raked its claws across Rokvan's armor, leaving deep scratches. The Gorthian stumbled back, surprised. Kira attacked next, using her speed. She darted in, trying to strike at weak points in the creature's armor. But the Shadestalker was faster than even her. It caught her with a backhand swipe that sent her flying into a tree. Now it was just Hana and the Predator. She didn't run. She didn't attack. She watched. The Shadestalker circled her, its compound eyes reflecting the jungle's glow. Hana noticed how it moved. She noticed the rhythm of its breathing, in, out, pause. She noticed how it shifted weight before attacking. She noticed the slight blind spot where its left eye cluster didn't quite overlap with its right. Most importantly, she noticed the bioluminescent vines hanging from the trees above. The Shadestalker tensed, preparing to strike. Hana moved, not toward it but toward the nearest vine. She grabbed it and yanked hard. The vine's bioluminescence flared bright, like a flashbang in the jungle darkness. The Shadestalker's compound eyes were designed to see in low light. The sudden flare of brightness blinded it completely. It thrashed, confused, disoriented. 2 seconds of vulnerability. Hana had prepared a branch earlier, sharpened against rocks when they made camp. She hadn't known why at the time, just instinct. The human instinct to make tools. Now she knew. She drove the sharpened branch through the blind spot in the creature's eyes, angling it downward. The point pierced the neural cluster at the base of its skull. The Shadestalker shuddered once and went still. Total time from the flash of light to the kill. 4 seconds. Hana stepped back, breathing hard. Her hands were steady. Her heart was pounding, but her hands didn't shake. Rockvan pulled himself up, staring at the dead predator. Kira limped over, holding her side. They both looked at Hana like they were seeing her for the first time. "How did you know where to strike?" Kira asked. "I watched it breathe," Hana said simply. "I watched how it moved. Everything has patterns." Rockvan approached the Shadestalker's corpse. He examined the kill. One precise strike straight through the neural cluster. "This creature has killed trained warriors," he said slowly. "You killed it in seconds." Hana didn't respond. She was already scanning the jungle again, listening for threats. That night, Rockvan didn't make her take watch alone. They shared it. And when Kira spoke, she used Hana's name. Their emergency beacon registered the kill automatically. Somewhere in orbit, Academy instructors received the notification. Team 7 had neutralized a Shadestalker. First successful kill of the trial season. Time to neutralize, 4 seconds. Cadet responsible, Hana Kim, human. By nightfall, other teams started reporting their encounters. 3 cadets were already dead, killed by the jungle's predators. 2 more were injured. The survival trial was living up to its reputation, but across the communication channels something else spread. A whisper among the cadets, the instructors, the support staff. The human, the weakest cadet, the one everyone expected to die first, had killed a Shadestalker in moments. In the command center orbiting above Kilos 4, Instructor Vekthar reviewed the combat footage. He watched how Hana moved, how she observed, how she waited for the perfect moment. He watched the kill itself. Efficient, precise, without wasted motion. "Replay it," he commanded. They watched it again. And again. Each time, Vekthar's expression grew more thoughtful. A Nethram instructor named Salis stood beside him. "She doesn't fight like us," Salis observed. "She doesn't rely on strength or speed or tactical processing." "No," Vekthar agreed. "She fights like something older. Something patient, what do humans call it?" Vekthar accessed the human database, searching through Earth's history. He found the answer in ancient records, in the survival strategies of early humans on their homeworld. "Persistence hunting," he read aloud. "Humans would track prey for days. They weren't the strongest or the fastest, but they never stopped. They watched. They waited. They learned. And when the moment came, they struck with absolute precision." He watched the footage one more time. 4 seconds. 1 strike. 1 dead predator that had killed trained warriors. "The human is not weak," Vekthar said quietly. "We were wrong. The human is something far more dangerous." Down in the jungle, Hana sat on watch, unaware of the conversation happening above her. She was thinking about patterns again, about how every creature she'd seen moved in predictable ways. She was thinking about the jungle's rhythm and how to use it to survive. Kira stirred in her sleep and mumbled something. Rockvan's breathing was deep and steady. They trusted her now to keep them safe. Hana Kim, the weakest cadet in the academy, smiled slightly in the darkness. She still had 5 more days to survive, and she was just getting started. The transport shuttle descended through the darkness of space. carrying its single human passenger toward orbital station Kronos 7. Hana Kim pressed her face against the viewport, watching the massive military academy grow larger with each passing moment. Her reflection stared back at her, a young woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She looked small even to herself. The academy was enormous. It sprawled across the orbital station like a metal city, gleaming under the light of 3 distant suns. Ships moved in and out of docking bays. Weapons platforms rotated slowly on the station's outer ring. This was where the galaxy trained its warriors. And somehow, impossibly, Hana was here. The shuttle pilot, a creature with blue scales and 4 arms, glanced back at her. "First human cadet," it said in the common tongue. "You are either very brave or very foolish." Hana didn't answer. She wasn't sure which one she was, either. The docking procedure took 20 minutes. When the airlock finally opened, Hana grabbed her single bag and stepped into the academy. The corridor beyond was built for beings much larger than humans. The ceiling stretched 5 meters overhead. The doorways were wide enough to fit 3 people standing side by side. Everything here made her feel tiny. Other cadets moved through the corridors in groups. Hana saw a Valorian, a massive creature covered in natural armor plates, easily 3 meters tall. Its footsteps shook the floor. She saw Rikathi moving in pairs, their lean bodies built for speed, their eyes tracking everything with predatory focus. There were Nethrim with their bulbous heads and multiple arms, Gorthians who looked like walking mountains, and species she couldn't even name. Not one of them was human. A few cadets stopped to stare at her. One Valorian laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "That's the human? It looks like it would break in a strong wind." Hana kept walking. She had heard worse during the selection process on Earth. The Galactic Council had debated for months whether humans were even suitable for military training. 300 years since first contact, and most alien species still viewed humanity as fragile newcomers. Soft, weak, unsuited for war. She found her assigned quarters in the cadet wing. The room was designed for Valorian proportions. The bed was too large. The desk was too high. The gravity was set to galactic standard, which was slightly heavier than Earth normal. Every breath felt like work. Hana dropped her bag and sat on the floor. Her datapad chimed, a message from Diho, one of the human support staff working in the communications division. "Good luck," it read. "Show them what we can do. What could humans do?" Hana wondered. She wasn't strong like the Valorians. She wasn't fast like the Rikathi. Her brain couldn't process tactical data like the Nethrim. She was just a human who had scored high on pattern recognition tests and had been stubborn enough not to quit when the training hurt. The next morning began with physical assessment. All new cadets gathered in the main training hall. Hana counted 47 beings from 12 different species. She was the only human. Instructor Vekthar entered the hall and everyone fell silent. He was Valorian, old and scarred, with armor plates that had been cracked and reformed so many times they looked like broken stone. His eyes swept over the assembled cadets and stopped on Hana. "A human," he said slowly. "The Council in their wisdom has decided your species deserves a chance." He moved closer, looking down at her from his enormous height. "I disagreed with that decision. You will show me I was wrong or you will leave." The first test was strength. Cadets had to lift a weighted bar calibrated to their species' baseline. Hana watched as Valorians hoisted massive weights. Gorthians lifted even more. When her turn came, she struggled with a bar that the others had lifted with one hand. She managed it, but barely. She finished last. The second test was speed, a simple sprint across the training hall. The Rikathi moved like lightning, crossing the distance in seconds. Hana ran as fast as she could, her lungs burning in the heavy gravity. She finished last again. The third test was reaction time. Cadets had to dodge incoming projectiles in a simulation chamber. The Rikathi, with their enhanced reflexes, made it look easy. Hana stepped into the chamber and the first projectile hit her within 3 seconds. She was eliminated immediately. By the end of the day, Hana had finished last in every single physical test. The other cadets didn't bother hiding their amusement. She heard the whispers. "The human is worthless. Why is it even here? It won't survive the first week." Instructor Vekthar approached her as the others filed out. "Cadet Kim," he said, his voice flat. "Did your people make a mistake sending you?" Hana met his eyes. She was exhausted, humiliated, and every muscle hurt, but she didn't look away. "No, sir. Then prove it, Vekthar said. Because right now you are the weakest cadet I have ever seen. That night Hana sat in her quarters, unable to sleep. Her body ached. Her pride was bruised, but instead of giving up, she pulled out her datapad and began studying. She watched recordings of the day's tests, analyzing how each species moved. The Valorians used brute strength, relying on their natural armor. The Rikathi depended on speed and reflexes. The Nethrim calculated every movement with mathematical precision, but Hana noticed something else. She noticed patterns. The Valorians always favored their dominant side. The Rikathi moved in predictable vectors when they attacked. The Nethrim hesitated for a fraction of a second when presented with unexpected variables. Everyone had weaknesses. Everyone had patterns. And humans. Humans were good at finding patterns. She studied until her eyes burned. She watched combat footage from previous academy classes, noting how different species fought, how they reacted under pressure, what mistakes they made. She couldn't match them in strength or speed, but maybe she didn't need to. A message chimed on her datapad. It was from Deho again. I heard about today. Don't quit. Hana typed back, I'm not quitting. I'm learning. The next day, Instructor Vekthar gathered all the cadets in the assembly hall. His expression was grim. In 1 week you will be transported to Kalos 4 for your survival trial, he announced. It is a jungle moon with hostile wildlife. You will be dropped in teams of 3. You will survive for 7 days. Some of you may not survive at all. A murmur ran through the cadets. Hana had read about Kalos 4. Cadets had died there before. Real predators. Real danger. This is where warriors are made, Vekthar continued. This is where we separate the strong from the weak. His eyes found Hana again. The trial begins in 7 days. Prepare yourselves. As the other cadets dispersed, talking excitedly about the challenge, Hana remained seated. 7 days. She had 7 days to figure out how to survive in an environment designed to kill beings far stronger than her. A Rikathi cadet named Kira paused near her. Human, she said, her voice curious rather than mocking. You are very small and very weak. How do you plan to survive? Hana looked up at her. I don't know yet, she admitted. But I will. Kira tilted her head, studying her. You are either very brave or very foolish. It was the second time Hana had heard that. She still didn't know which one was true. But as she returned to her quarters that night, she began planning. She couldn't be stronger. She couldn't be faster. But she could be smarter. She could be more patient. She could watch and learn and wait for the right moment. Humans had survived on Earth for millions of years, not by being the strongest predators, but by being the smartest, by being persistent, by refusing to give up. Kalos 4 was coming, and Hana Kim intended to survive it.